He's the man. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a good.
I've heard a lot about him and actually got a chance to meet him a month ago.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Went and saw his setup and just shot the breeze.
He's a good young man.
Yeah, sharp cat.
I haven't been able to get over to lacrosse now that that's where he's at. He can only take so many people too.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah,
Is he able to stay open right now?
Not really. Technically, he said he had to be shut down.
yeah.
Brutal.
He's kind of, I think he's doing like one-on-ones. And just making sure,
Yep.
keeping the distance. And like I had people come in one at a time to do the in-body.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
all right.
Keep something going.
Yeah, no, seriously.
At all.
My wife is cleaning through all of our, clippings and everything that we've saved, Brandon, and she ran into an article where you were in the football article.
Oh, yeah.
when we played you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you want to bring this over to him? I'm like, no.
Was it probably my senior year when we had a favorable outcome?
Probably the last time that ever happened.
Yeah. Well, we got smoked the year before by you guys.
Who was your senior year? What year?
I think
They go right in.
I think you'll sit there.
My senior year? Yeah. What year?
01. So you guys would have had CD was your quarterback. Isaac Agadal would have been playing, I think.
He didn't come out his senior year.
Okay. Senior then.
That was a wake-up moment for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dusty was playing.
Yeah.
Joe Ingvelson. He was tall. I remember him. He was a good basketball player, right?
Yeah, he played at Winona State.
Yeah.
Won a national championship.
We didn't play you guys. I think we might have scrimmaged at the beginning of the year somewhere.
Was that the one where we had the nice little fight?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
That would have been a fun game, you know?
That would have been a great game. That's what we want back, guys.
Right?
In the right way.
Yeah, exactly,
Oh,
yeah.
That tip stuff too. People get out of whack and say,
Yeah.
just relax.
Right.
My job is to find a way for us to beat every school.
Right?
Just like your job
Yeah,
is.
just, yeah. Yeah, that was when we had Vessel.
Yeah, Brett.
Do you know him?
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, he's at Dover now.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Went to Austin and then.
Oh, yes. You see him all the time, man. That's your conference, right?
Yeah. He's a different cat.
He is, yeah, he is.
He lives in Winona,
Does he?
He lives in Winona, still, as of what I heard last, he lives in Winona, teaches in Austin, coaches in Dover. So they don't start football practice until 4:30. Off the record, we have been told they don't know if they're going to have a varsity football program.
Really?
Okay, so we are live now.
Okay, all right.
So nothing's off the record anymore.
Kids will tune in for this one.
Okay, just make sure there's just gotta make sure I'm admitting people for some reason. See, technology is awesome when it works.
Mhm.
When it's, make sure people can hear me. Okay, everyone can hear us.
You mean like when you're working from your home, online schooling, and you can't get them on Zoom? That stinks.
Do you have to do that?
I have to do a
Yeah.
couple study halls that's been hitting this,
Yeah.
and it's all my fault. I'm telling our head teacher, blame this on me. It's on me.
Man, yeah.
Don't put it on the kid.
I didn't have him show me how to get a meeting set up. I didn't even know how to. It's just not my jam
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
What type of meeting?
Oh, one of these?
Yeah. Isaac helped me the other day, and he's like, because that's how they meet every morning and night at NSU right now.
Where's Northern
Northern State. Yeah, he's at Northern State, offense coordinator. He's like, all you gotta do that is, I'm like, slow down, and he does it, and he's gone, we can't sit still for 20 seconds.
Well, when you grow up in it, it's different, right?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. What's his big goal with coaching?
I
Yeah,
think both him and Mike.
yeah.
Him and Mike Schmidt get along really well. And I think they would like to.
Is that the header he's with?
Yeah, he was at UWL, then he resigned, took the job at UWL, or Northern State, excuse me.
What's his name?
Mike Schmidt,
Mike Schmidt.
real good guy.
Where's he from?
He played at UWL. He's from Menominee, Wisconsin.
Ah,
Yeah, years ago.
okay. Okay.
even from you and I, wide receiver coach to offensive coordinator now.
Yeah, Northwestern.
I thought I saw that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what he wants to do.
Climbing the ladder,
Yeah.
quick kind of too.
Yeah, sort of.
You know, it's
Yeah.
good.
Must be doing a good job.
Yeah,
Hope so.
right.
I gotta keep talking to him, man. Do
Yeah.
what's right for kids.
Yeah. Well, let's get this thing going. I know it's just about 1 o'clock, and I think make sure everyone is getting in. Admit. Might have to keep doing that for some reason, but welcome everybody. We got an awesome Sunday special guest for everybody, for all of us. Even speaking on behalf of Araya and I, we've got a chance to meet with Carl before, and he's just number one. He's an amazing human being and father, husband, all those things I know come prior in his life. But he's also an incredible coach of men and women, and he's accomplished a lot. But that he'd never say that, so that's why we have to say it first. So otherwise he would just say like, he'd be humble.
Yeah, you're being very kind. Thank you.
But along that, I'm sure he's got so many lessons that he's learned, things he's done right, things he's done wrong. And we're really excited. And we know you guys are all blessed to be able to hear from him just like we are. So we're just going to kick this thing off. I might be up there hitting that admit button. But so we just, starting off, Carl, we kind of let's just begin at the beginning. What was your childhood like? What was it like growing up in Carl's family?
Well, I'm the oldest of 12.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so, it was a great childhood. We lived on the bottom of Shibley Hill for all the La Crescent kids. That's between Hoka and Caledonia. My mother still lives there. We had 2 rooms, one for the boys and one for the girls. So
Wow.
there were 7 girls in one room and 5 boys in the other. But it's sort of cliche, but it's the truth. We didn't know we were poor. We didn't care. We were outside all the time playing ball or helping mom or dad. My dad worked at a factory in La Crosse, and then we tried to raise cattle. And my mom was a LPN at a nursing home. So they worked very hard. They were great examples. Mom and dad loved the Lord. Christ came first, and then it was probably sports. And I say that just because Dad was a very competitive man, and he loved activity. He loved activity. He wanted his kids to be doing stuff, good, productive stuff, to keep us out of trouble. I'm a graduate of Caledonia from the early 80s. I wouldn't say my high school years were that great, but I know I went through them. We had a lot of drugs. We were a pot-heavy school. I was scared of my dad, so I wasn't going to touch his stuff. And I was scared of him. And I mean that with all due respect. I don't think it was a bad thing. Doesn't mean I was an angel, because I wasn't. But I was scared of drugs, and I wasn't going to touch that stuff. Had great coaches, didn't realize it at the time. Some of them were going through some tough issues that I learned about later on. But I learned to be competitive. Had great teammates. We're great friends still to this day. But it was a good childhood. Like I tell my football team and my track team, I know why I went through in the 80s, so that then I could teach, in the 90s and 2000 and so on. To learn from what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I tell the boys all the time, I'm not perfect. Don't claim to be perfect. Please learn from us, though. And I'm really proud of where my family's come from.
Yeah. What sports did you play growing up?
I played football, basketball, and ran track, just like I do when I coach. Wasn't a great athlete. Was competitive. Had a lot of fun with it. Did what I could. Probably could have been better. Honestly, as I look back, probably lacked a little bit of confidence. When you're the first young man, excuse me, going to, school, you don't have anybody to really gauge yourself by. And it was sink or swim. Dad was huge on just go do your best, and that was about the extent of the advice, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. So I had to really learn on the go, and I think it paved the way for my other brothers and sisters who were way better athletes than myself. But that's good. I'm proud of that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I enjoyed all three and tried to do the best I can, and learned a lot from my coaches and my teammates.
Absolutely. 3-sport athlete, kiddos. We see a lot of kids focus on one sport. Do you find that some of your better athletes are those diverse?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt. It's not even close. I was going to say, back in when I went to, I obviously played basketball, like I said. Most of my friends were wrestlers, and we lost in the state championship. I believe we had a basketball game that night. They lost to Staples Motley, but a lot of the wrestlers were better basketball players than us. So what's that tell you? They were great athletes.
Yep.
They could do it all. They did. They were smooth. They were quick. They had touch. That's just what you did. You were outside and you were playing some form of ball. Stick ball to running races to, as cheesy as it sounds, let's just play some tag.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was. So, now that you're coaching, the number one thing I'll say is that it's good for injury prevention. We don't want to be overtraining the muscles. And then us coaches believe with all our heart that there's no substitute for competition. Competition is everything to me. You get to find out, what a man does when he's, it's not my favorite sport, or I'm down or out a little bit, what he's got inside. I don't remember it as much as in the 80s as I do now, but it seems like everybody's got I got a favorite sport. Well, yeah, I get that. Our favorite sport was in the fall was football. In the winter, it was either basketball or wrestling at Caledonia. And then, spring, it was baseball or track, and that was your favorite sport at that moment.
Right.
And then during summertime, you did it all, So I would like us to get back to those days. I don't think it's going to hurt our sports. I don't think it's going to hurt your football, your basketball, your wrestling. We encourage it all at Caledonia. As the head football coach during the summertime, I just want the basketball players and wrestlers, hey, coach, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be wrestling. Great. So then if I got something going on, I can move on and get another kid. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like if we're in a tournament or them going to a wrestling camp or a basketball camp is going to help our football.
Oh, for sure.
And parents have got to understand that and just tell their kids to relax, go ahead, do it. We're fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing we despise, and I use these words, is I hate it when I hear that a kid's on the couch.
Yeah.
Get off the couch, get doing something.
And the reality of small towns too is like, it's just, you can't afford to have non-multi-sport athletes.
No.
But it shouldn't be happening at even up in the cities at a big
Correct.
school. And you look at some of the best athletes at the top of their game at the biggest level, whether it be NHL. We were talking the other day with some of your buddies at the NHL level, and he's like, he was an awesome baseball player, or what was the other sport that they're playing? Awesome football player, all-state football player.
Mm-hmm.
And then athleticism, you want them to peak, at that collegiate and then professional level, if you even get that far, right?
Yeah. That's a big if, not that shouldn't be your goal. The other thing that me and Coach Josh Dearson always used to talk about is memories. So those guys got great memories playing baseball, great memories playing football, and that's what we want for our kids too. The great memories of, maybe football is my favorite sport, but I learned so much wrestling and playing baseball and running track.
Yep.
Carl and Kevin Klug, two of our best ever, loved track. And I was talking to Kevin yesterday morning, and both Carl was home 2 weeks ago, and they still talk about track and how much they loved it and the competition, those are the great things. And those two guys played at a high level and have done great things.
Mhm.
But they talk about high school track.
That's a great, of all those multi-sport arguments for it, I don't think I've ever heard memories.
Right.
That's but that's
Yep.
so true. Like I know you'd be the same way. If I could think back to, I'd be shortchanging my life quality if I had just focused on football or just focused on baseball.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Well, there's nothing better for a football player, right? Who's on the pitching mound. I don't know much about baseball, but I do know enough to be that competitive guy, to bear down on being the pitcher. I got to catch the ball. You know, I got to get that last out or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The pressures and the good pressures and the bad pressures. And it's also, you got to learn from the bad pressure. You know, you're a top-notch sprinter. You know, my son Isaac was, I hope he doesn't see this, but you know, when he was a junior and senior, was arguably the fastest kid in Minnesota, and he false started both times, so that he never got to go to the state in the 100-meter, and he was by far the fastest kid. But he learned from that, and you know, and people wanted me to just tell him to sit in the block and relax and let everybody get going. He'll run by him. I didn't want that because I wanted him to keep that attack mentality, and he learned from it. You know, so you learn from the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not the end of your life. It hurts. It stinks. It sucks. You know, if you're a competitor, you don't like losing, but you got to keep it in perspective and help it to better your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So a guy like you, you talked about your dad a little bit, coaches. Who is like the most influential person in your life?
Well, are we talking person or are we talking spirit? Are we talking the Lord? I mean, number one would be King Jesus Christ, right?
Yep.
I mean, to me, he's number one. I mean, I've done a better job the last 15 years of my coaching career than my first 15 years of coaching when it comes to having Christ number one. He was always important to me. But you know how it is. I mean, you guys are in your 20s, right? You know, you're full of go, and sometimes you blur, you know, what's important.
Oh, sure.
And God was important, but we had to find a way to win football games, you know. And so early in my career, I sort of blurred that line, wasn't very good at it. I think you two and myself had talked about, for me, it came one day at an aha moment at the practice field where we had 3 to 5 guys show up for weight room, and I was a little bit discouraged. And I was pacing the field, and I went through my mind, who was the best teacher ever? And then it was, who was the best coach ever? And then it got to be, well, wait a second, who's the best teacher of all? And it was like, okay, it's King Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, not everybody listens to him. So why am I beating myself up? I'm just a puny small town high school football coach. So for me, it was just relax, keep doing what you're doing. Don't quit, which obviously I did not. But it just sort of gave me a priority of, you know, okay, just relax. All you can do is preach it, do your best. And, you know, to me, that was the Holy Spirit talking to me to get your priorities straight.
Yeah.
And with that said, I still have got a long ways to go. Sometimes on a Friday night, I unfortunately lose my mind, and I'm not proud of that. I try not to, but you know, I think it's important to be a competitor. I think the Lord wants us to be a competitor. He wants to compete for souls, and he wants us to be a great example. And you know, sometimes we blur that. But for me, that's number one.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Then from so outside King Jesus, and how about from like a male role model, and then coaching? I know that was one of your sub questions.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my dad was a very aggressive follower of King Christ. He made that very clear to all 12 of us, and mother was too. But we're going with the father theme, right? So, you know, Dad did a great job. I still hear his voice. I still try to, you know, Dad made it very clear to me that it didn't matter if you were the first string, second string, or third string. Every kid deserves to be coached. And so we've tried to live by that rule. I think that's extremely important. That's somebody's child.
Mm-hmm.
Notice I didn't say get playing time.
Right.
I said coached.
Right.
And everybody we feel is going to get coached at California. If you play football or track for us, being those are the men's sports that I coach, you know, we're going to coach you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get reps in practice. When it comes to, you know, mentors, I mean, you know, Ken Van Boom hired me, a tremendous coach as you know, he was my varsity basketball coach, my junior high football coach, and he's a legendary golf coach at California. I learned a lot from Ken. We still talk to this day. You know, Leo Simon, even though I didn't wrestle, I played basketball. I was always, and a lot of my teammates didn't even know this, but I was always paying attention to what he said.
Was he the wrestling
He was the
coach?
head wrestling coach in the 80s, legendaries in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But I would always listen to what the guys would have to say in the locker room, or what Mr. Simon would do this way or that way, and of course, Mr. Van Boom. For me, I was fortunate enough to coach with Chris Fadness. He's the legendary basketball coach over in Austin. I used to coach boys basketball with him
Okay.
for the first 10 years before I switched over to girls. We won a title. I did a couple other years, but I learned a lot from Chris. He was just phenomenal. We're still good friends to this day. Mark Frayling, as a head football coach, I was an assistant under him. Just learned a ton from him and a lot of Mark's assistant coaches. So I'm a big believer in reading a lot. I love reading about coaches at all levels, not just the pros or the big time. I love reading about small town coaches. The good and the bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just read a book called $1 Trillion Coach, and it's kind of more of a business, but he's an old football coach. And the only reason I bring that up is because for all the kids watching, just like the importance of understanding leadership and coaching style of leadership and how transferable it is, not just in sports and pouring into youth, which is something I hope all these kids do at some point, but even that like business and in the real world, that you can have these leadership qualities and go teach them. It's like, it's such a powerful skill.
Yeah, Dick Hatlovig was a great coach. God rest his soul, he passed away. But I worked with Dick. He was an EVD teacher, and then he was also a coach at Caledonia. And Dick always used to tell me, Carl, make sure that if the kids go to college, that they're working the connections. The one, he might be into trucking. Well, then he knows a teammate who knows a teammate, who then they can work together. And that always, once I started seeing that made a lot of sense. Just how powerful that is, those connections, and they're just huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
You had,
No, go ahead.
you said one thing about every kid deserves to be coached, and that's awesome. That's like, I'm putting that in my memory bank. That's because it's hard to, you articulated what I think we both feel. I've just never heard it articulated that way. But now, for the kid, and of the number of kids we have watching right now, I guarantee there's some kids that are in the position where they're not getting playing time. And, what encouragement would you give them, regardless of playing time, to continue to persevere in the lessons they would learn from that?
Well, again, that's where, sport is,
Keep going.
sport is, supposed to get ready, get us ready for life. That's what my dad always talked about, was the point of kids playing sports or any extracurricular is to get them ready for real life. Okay, so right there is why they need to stick out for their sport. And again, I'm having this talk with my daughter right now. She's a GA strength coach at Winona State, and she's looking for a job, and I don't know if he's going to be a good boss or if he's going to be a good boss. It doesn't matter, man. You're going to get stuck with a bad boss sooner or later. We all have. It's part of life, and it's also a different story when you get put into that leadership role. It's easy for all these parents and all these kids to complain about their high school coaches, but they've never been in that spot. And let's be real honest. Some parents can't even take care of their household, yet they're going to get upset with a coach. So there's another reason to stick with it. You've never been in that spot. Until you're in that leadership spot, you have no clue. So again, that's another, you got to stay out for it. The other thing too, most coaches that I know, I love it when my kids come and talk to me. Carl, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? How could I do this better? How can I do this better? If you come in with a good spirit and you say it the right way, and, coach, what are you really, not happy with? And break it down. All the good coaches are going to say, hey, Billy, I need you to do this, this, and this, and here's why you're not doing it. You know what I mean? A bad coach is going to, I don't have time. Well, that you always got to have time for kids. So I would encourage them, go and talk, keep communicating. Again, another skill for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. It's I found this year was my first year coaching, and to get kids to ask questions and open up was
Extremely hard.
extreme. Yeah, it was a challenge, and you just got to keep reiterating and keep hammering on them.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a
Right.
stupid question, so that couldn't be more
You got to demand it, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just got to say, this is your team. You know, at the essence, there's an old Bill Walsh book. I forget the name of it. I have it. I gave it to Maria's boyfriend who's coaching for North Dakota State. It's a book by Bill Walsh, and it goes from the beginning of how to start a program to all the way. And it covers everything. And I can't remember the name of it. It didn't sell very good. So I feel real proud that I was one of the guys that bought that book right away.
That's awesome.
It was an awesome book. Awesome
For any
book.
sport?
Any sport. But it goes through A through Z on how to run a football program, which it don't matter what
Right.
sport.
Sure, yep.
But in there, he talks about at the end of the day, you want the players to feel so empowered from us coaches that they could run the program. That's what we strive for at Cal. I expect my boys right now for football. I'm jacked for next fall. They know what they've been taught. They better be out there doing weights, body weights, sprinting, whatever it takes, you know, on their own to get ready, because we want them to be a real man.
Mhm.
You know, so my point to your guys would be, this is your hockey team. I'm just the leader for a little bit, and then I want to empower you seniors to lead us in the right way. But if you're not man enough to speak up and say, what do we do here, coach, or how can we handle this better? Then you're not getting them ready for real life. And now they're part of the problem. And part of that is, yes, there's bashful kids. The other part is, well, I don't want to speak up, because then if things don't go the way, then I'm to blame.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're not making yourself better then.
Absolutely.
You know, now
Yeah.
you're being part of the problem,
Absolutely.
in my humble opinion.
Great message. Absolutely. So how did it all start? Did you know you were going to be a coach?
I did in my junior year.
You did.
And I hesitate saying this. We didn't really care for a football coach. At this time in his life, in the 80s, and God bless him, I hope he's doing better. He was not a good man to be around. I'm just going to leave it at that, because I hope and pray that he's changed.
Yep.
And I kept thinking, I love football, but I don't want to be here. Well, that doesn't mesh. That doesn't work. And even as a junior, I'm like, and I didn't even tell any of my buddies this. Like, we had our class reunion this year, and they were like, man, Carl, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I never told you guys, because too scared, I'm not going to put myself out there. But I knew as a junior and a senior that, man, this is football. I love playing football. I've always played it every day of my life, you know, tag type of football or something. And all of a sudden, there's no fun in it until Friday night. No, I get it. Football is a tough sport. You know, it's like wrestling. It's, you know, hockey must be something like that too, I would think.
Absolutely.
But that's okay. That's part of life too. You got to do the hard things to get to the fun things.
Yep.
So I'm not saying, you know, that everything's got to be fun, because I hate that. That's not true either. You got to put in work. But it got to be drudgery, and then I was like, man, you know, who's doing this? Am I allowing him to do this? You know what I mean? It got to the point where I'm like, I'm allowing this guy to have this.
Back then,
Yeah. And so I was like, no, you know, I got to change this. And I just felt in my heart that there was a better way to do some things. So I started taking mental notes. Wasn't smart enough to take physical notes, but I was smart enough to take mental notes. I'm like, okay, I like this, I like that. And that's sort of what I was talking about with Mr. Leo Simon.
Okay.
You know, I would hear about certain things that he would do, and you know, some things that would drive the guys crazy. And I'd be like, why is it driving them crazy? And then I started paying attention to my track coach more. Why is he doing this? What's the point of that?
Yeah.
So.
Was there ever a point in your coaching career? I know right now you're at the.
Well, we're pretty blessed.
Yeah, you're pretty blessed. But was there ever a point where you thought, oh, I don't know if this is for me, or
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, I was a ninth grade football coach, and I was when I was under Mark Trailing right away, and I was a little bit bipolar, maybe. I don't know. I'll say it. And I was too much in the. You know, now I tell my 7th, 8th, and 9th grade coaches just to relax. Don't worry about the records. But, you know, when you're first coaching and you're a 9th grade coach and you want to turn the program around, right? you want to get Caledonia football, you know, to me, here's what bugs me about people. I coach the same as I do now as I did in 9th grade. Okay, Mark Fraley let me run the weight room, and then we got Ernie involved. We would do 7-on-7 stuff. We would, you know, and that was just the beginning of that stuff. But Mark let me, as a 9th grade coach, run with it, and I enjoyed that. But at times I would get too wrapped up into the game, and then we'd lose a game, and I'd sit in the front seat, and I'd be, what am I doing? You know, I'm away from my wife and the kids, and I'm doing a terrible job, and blah blah blah. And, you know, I was just being silly. I was being stupid, you know, immature. And I just learned that you can't do that to yourself. I actually resigned, wrote a letter, put it in our superintendent's box, and he called Mr. Ken Vandenboom and, you know, what's Carl doing here, you know? And so we ripped it up and told Ken to get his head on straight, and thank God Ken did. And you know, you just learn that it's a process.
Yeah.
Don't overreact, and it's going to take time.
So you don't lack passion, Carl, do you?
No, I don't think so. I hope not. And that's one thing when I do, that's when I'm going to get out. You know, I enjoy it. I enjoy being with the boys and the girls. It's you know, like my dad said, I look at them like an extension of my Alicia, Isaac, and Maria.
Mm-hmm.
And I think every coach should. But, you know, you got to figure it out where to, you know, where to relax. And, you know, another great friend of mine is Mark Ash. He's a head coach at Minnetonka. He's a Brownsville boy, played football for us. I was an assistant at that time, but Mark and I were very close. And Mark always talks about how he thinks so many coaches are so close to getting over the top, and then they quit. You know what I mean? You hear about coaches, you know, I've been doing this for 5, 7, 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then they quit. And he's like, how many of them that they would just stick with it, push over that top, that they be where they want to be.
Yeah.
It took us 10 years to win our first title. They were great 10 years beforehand. We never had a losing season. We made it to the section final a couple of times. If the head coach would have known anything, maybe we would have won a couple there, but he didn't. That was me. But you know, you learn.
Yeah.
You learn,
Yeah.
and your staff learns, and your kids learn.
Yeah.
You know, kids have to learn how to be winners.
Yeah.
You know, another coaching mentor that I love is Coach Carl Urbanek from Mabel Canton. And Carl's been very gracious. He just made the Hall of Fame, along with Jeff Mumm from Three River Falls that I coached the All-Star game, 2 great examples of men. And Carl has been very gracious, and he talked about how when I was an assistant, Caledonia kids were front runners. And then when I took over, he said we got rid of that attitude. And I'm very humbled and really proud to hear about that from such a great coach as Coach Urbanek.
Explain to the kids what you mean by
A front runner is an athlete who only excels when times are good. He doesn't know how to get down and gritty. He doesn't know how to fight. He doesn't know how to overcome. When things are good, he's great. And when things are bad, he goes right in the tank. And so when Coach Urbanek has told me that throughout the years, but he's really made a point of it the last 2-3 weeks, that's all I need to hear.
Oh, man.
Mhm.
You know, that it's not about winning and losing. It's about we're making a difference, and to hear it from such a legendary coach, man, it makes your coaching career.
Oh, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Oof. That's it's nice to know that things weren't always easy or
No,
good.
they still aren't.
Yeah,
They still
I
aren't.
shouldn't.
No, that's a great point. That's
Yeah.
a great point.
Yeah.
And it's part of, I get frustrated with some, you know, we have a few pretty arrogant, cocky coaches in our Three Rivers. And Jimmy Westland is a great assistant coach of mine. And one year, Jimmy just stayed right by my side. And he said he learned so much of how to deal with people and how he couldn't believe what people would say to me. And he goes, you just handled it with class, coach, and you just, okay, and just kept walking. And my point is, we get some arrogant coaches that make some snotty remarks, you know, about, you know, I could coach at Caledonia, and I always think, no, you couldn't. My boys would eat you up. They would eat you alive.
Yep.
And my point is that we have all the same issues at every other school, but we're going to attack them.
Yep.
We aren't going to, you know, oh, there's a party and we're just going to look the other way. No. We are gonna call team meeting. You better not be there, and here's why, and I hope the cops pick you up. You know, if we hear about drug abuse, we hired a great counselor, Brett Knudsen, owns Driftless Recovery. He was telling me about some of my alumni, this was a couple years ago, and I'm like, I want you. He's been a great resource. We're going to attack the issues that are in our community. We're not gonna look the other way. Because again, if they're your kids, that's what you want to do, right?
Yep.
And it's not easy. It's still not easy. We still have things and issues, and I got to make phone calls. And
Speaking of those issues, what for kids nowadays, what are the biggest things you've seen as a coach that is really grabbing hold of kids? It's maybe just best way to put it, they're not fulfilling their potential, the things that they could become. They're getting tied up with in their teenage years.
well, the biggest one still is the drugs, and it's not just pot now anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah, by the way, this pot that you're smoking, hopefully it's nobody here on the screen, is a lot worse than when your parents smoked pot. You know what I mean? We've had a couple athletes that unfortunately when they left us, they went to college, did the wrong drug, and now it's wrecked their mind. And that breaks my heart that they couldn't hang on to that lesson. You know, so that's the big one. And to me, it seems like there's more and more kids that don't feel self-worth. You know, my mom and dad always made all 12 of us feel very important. Now, not too important now either.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The world doesn't revolve around you. You know, but they made us feel important. We felt loved. I see too many kids that don't feel that way now. And so now it's become our job as coaches you are worth it. God made you more than just this.
Yeah.
And that you have to go and push yourself to seek to a higher standard. It pains me that, you know, we've become more of a counselor almost now. But again, that's what we have to do. To help our athletes. But that's the big one, drugs and alcohol. The other one I would say is the addiction to iPads and their cell phones. Again, I just don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy for the brain. There's a lot of research now coming on what it does to our brain. I think we need to get back, put that thing away, and let's get outside and do whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, would I like the kids to go out and play football? Sure, but get out there for a walk, go fishing. You know, just do something active, get that body going, get that blood flow. You know, again, the research shows, right? If you get a little bit active, you get that blood flow, that's when you start thinking more clearly. That's the way the Lord designed us. Brilliant if you think about it.
It's miraculous.
Yeah, but not enough coaches or people talk about that. And we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's why we're such a program on eating right. You know, if you eat right, it's not just going to make you a better athlete, it's going to make you a better, healthy person. You know, so they all connect.
Totally.
People, kids and parents just have to humble themselves and let themselves be guided.
Yeah. Be coachable. Yeah.
You know, one comment that I usually make in private, and I'll say it right here, it's amazing to me how coaches are held to such a standard that they can't even, you know, sometimes you just make a mistake as a coach. It's shocking to me how coaches can't make any mistakes, you know, and I'm being facetious there. You know, our preachers and our pastors get a pass more than a coach.
Yeah.
And that ain't right.
No.
You know what I mean? We're going to make a mistake. You know, I've had people ask me, what did you look for in a coach that coached your kids? Someone who just cared and could teach them the fundamentals. I knew that they loved them. Now remember, I cannot love a child more than that parent, but that doesn't mean I don't love them. Okay, so I didn't expect my coaches to love Alicia, Isaac, and Maria more than me, but I did expect them to love and to care. And thank God we have that at Calhoun.
Yeah.
Then other than that, I want to have them to teach them fundamentals, you know, the basics of how to be a good volleyball player, a good football player, a good track athlete, whatever it may be, basketball player. And then from there, now it's on the kid too. You know, I just hate how these poor coaches get blamed for every little mistake. Again, what are you teaching your child?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, you try to do the best you can. For myself, I don't sleep Friday night after a game. And think about it, we've been pretty blessed and we've won. but I go through the game. What could I have done better? What could we have done better as a staff? How could I help Billy do a better job? So, these parents don't get it either that want to be so negative. A lot of times the coach is beating himself up, and just because he wants to do great
Right.
for his kids.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm talking too much.
No,
No,
here.
not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I'm trying to take note here.
Yeah, I know. Like, well, the good thing is we have this recorded, so we can
Yeah.
always kind of go back to it. What did Carl say?
Yeah.
Because this is really good stuff, Carl. And we're
Appreciate it.
not just
Thank you.
flattering you, man. Like, it's really good. I mean, Ryan and I are like dialed in.
Yeah,
I can tell. Like,
absolutely.
and I know they are too. But there's a question you brought up that I'm trying to rack my brain that you were going to ask him. Was it about the kids or was it about? I mean, I love the how relevant like the kid stuff is and how the story of Caledonia and mind you, if you're not from La Crescent, many of you aren't. That's the town that we're in right now. That's a town where Ryan and I coach. Where Carl coaches is an arch rival. Okay, you understand that. So we are completely humbling ourselves to an arch rival.
Mhm.
But that's what you do when you respect people. You mutually respect, and maybe that's a lesson right there. Is just like as an athlete, you gotta respect your opponent. Doesn't mean you gotta you gotta love them in a way that you respect them.
Well, I think we blur the line of what true competition is. When I played in the 80s, we had a great rivalry with La Crescent. In the 90s, playing you guys, we had a great rivalry. Personally, all the coaches in Caledonia want to see La Crescent get back to where they were. We're not scared of you, and I don't mean that disrespectful.
No.
We want the level to go up,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what's best for your kids.
Yeah.
Again, if you're a real coach, in my humble opinion, there's enough glory to go around. We want all kids to do well. But my job and the coach's job in Caledonia is to take care of our group. Now we want to see La Crescent take care of their group, Spring Grove take care of theirs, right? Winona, La Crosse, whatever it is. We want all the kids to do. That's how we change a society.
Yeah.
I mean, you change it first through King Christ.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But then afterwards, if we're really competing and getting after, it's like, playing ball against your brother.
Yeah.
You love your brother, but I don't want to lose my brother.
That's a good way to put it. That's a really way to put it.
I think I told you guys this, a couple of years ago when the state came out with, they asked every head coach who you could play. Who were the 3 teams you wanted to play? I put La Crescent number 1 because we believe in our heart in Caledonia that La Crescent is going to get football back. They're going to do it right. They're going to get the program back. And, some people at that time thought we did it because it was easy victory just because La Crescent was struggling. I'm not trying to be critical of it.
Yep.
That is not true at all. We wanted La Crescent because we want them back where they belong. So it can be a great rival. We can have thousands of people there watching all these kids from Houston County high schools. The other 2 I wanted was Plainview and Chatfield, and so that's what we want, guys. And,
Yeah.
There's childish stuff I know that's being said between some parents and some kids, and that's foolishness. It's silly. Yes, we want to play you guys, and yes, we want to win, and by gosh, you guys better want to beat us.
Yes,
and that's the way it should be.
The only way you get better is by playing the best.
Right.
Man.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Yeah.
Oh, it was the it came to me. It was about the awards.
Oh, yeah. So when we talked last, you mentioned to me that you didn't give out individual awards
Correct.
for your team. Can you just kind of go into that and why you chose to go
Well,
do that?
my first job 31 years ago was I was a junior high basketball coach for boys, and right, you're on the bus, and what do all the boys want to see?
Stats.
The stats. Coach, I want to see the scorebook, and right away I gave it to them, being a dumb coach, and all it was how many points I have, how many points, and right away I'm like, no, we're not doing this. This is not the point. The point is, did we beat whoever we were playing, and did we get better? So it became very apparent to me as a junior high basketball coach, and then when I was fortunate enough the next year to get hired as a 9th grade football coach, Mark Fraley and Mark at the time did give awards away, and it was like me and Mitch Mullins and Roger Knutson. We just like, Coach, we keep talking about family and talk about team, And then all of a sudden, we're gonna pick out who the MVP is and who's the best defensive player and who's the best offensive player on the team. And all we're doing is creating heartache. All we're doing is dividing guys up, because some parents do take that stuff very, very seriously. They think it's, everything. And so we are fortunate enough to talk Mark out of it. And with me, I've gone even a step farther. I couldn't tell you any of our stats. I always got to look them up. The only reason we keep stats is for the media.
Well, I know you haven't lost in a long time. So.
That's what I was told. And in all honesty, I didn't know that until it was, mid-30s.
Yeah.
And the media was calling me up, and I had to go to the other guys. I'm like, you're on the phone. I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
And they were like, if you haven't noticed, we haven't lost now. I'm like, no, I haven't.
It's like a picture of the no-hitter. Like,
Right.
Don't tell him.
Yeah.
Don't tell him.
And it wasn't a big, I was like, because I am such a move on to the next day, move on to the next day, move on to the next day. That's the way I am with my life, and that's the way I am with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know it until the, Channel 10 and Rochester Post Bulletin. So I know now, because now everybody beats me on
Sure.
it,
Mm-hmm.
but no, for a couple of years, we did not keep track.
Mm-hmm.
And we still really don't. But my point is that I didn't know what Noah came through for this year. I didn't know what Cole and Donnie and Eli had for yards, Austin and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how many yards Jack, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. That's the reason why I coach the O-line and D-line.
Mm-hmm.
Those poor guys don't get any publicity unless I can get the paper to interview them, or the newspaper or the TV to interview one of those,
Mm-hmm.
offensive linemen.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's, are you getting better, and did you win the football game?
Yeah.
So we don't pass out any of that stuff. Now, the conference does have some of that stuff.
Yep.
And I actually forgot to tell the guys this year. Had a mother 2 weeks ago. She was awesome. She's like, Coach, do you know what happened here with the Three Rivers? And I'm like, oh yeah, let me go back. I forgot to tell the guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
And our guys don't care.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, just from a personal experience, because I think that's really rare. I've never had that in any of the levels that I've played at. You?
No.
I mean, it's always emphasized, and it puts and I remember getting caught up in it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and the pressure that
Mhm.
came with when all of a sudden there's all this whatever.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of ink about
Yeah.
achievements, but then it's all on you, and it really from a personal level, it messes with you.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't make you better.
No.
If you could just focus on the game and having fun and the things
Yeah.
that truly matter.
And our job as a coach is to take that off you. Is to just relax, Brandon. Play your game. Do what you got to do. And again, you're gonna mess up, and so now you got extra pressure, right? And that you don't need. And our job as a coach is forget about it. Next play, next pitch, right? Next move on the wrestling mat, next play on the football field. Because you're always, you got good plays, you got bad plays, things like that. You got to keep moving on, keep moving on. You have enough natural pressure because you want to do well.
Yeah.
I don't need, and same as a coach. I don't really care what other people think. I care about what my coaching staff thinks and what my kids think.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to continue to try to get better. And, one of the guys asked me, well, what are you going to do if you lose? The next day, we're going to get up, we're going to watch tape, we're going to lift, and then we're going to do our youth football, and then we're going to get ready for whoever we play next.
Yeah.
It's, again, you just got to be a man about it.
Mm-hmm.
But my job, I think, is to just take those distractions away.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a concept I'd like to adopt and put into our program.
What really helped me, because, let's be honest, parents are always like, well, what do you think about, it's like, what really hit, I think, our parents was when I was able to tell them when Kevin and Carl Klug were being recruited. Those college guys don't care. Well, was he MVP of the conference? Was he, what was this? Not one coach asked me how many yards Carl ran for, how many tackles he had, how many sacks he had. They didn't care about anything like that. You know what they cared about? What kind of kid is he? What's his work ethic? Is he going to be in the bars? And then, oh yeah, what's his parents like? They wanted to know what mom and dad were like. And that's become a huge question. Iowa State just called me Friday. And one of the questions was, what's this player's parents like? That has become a huge
Wow.
question. Never once was it about his stats. It was, what's he like, and what do you see athletically, where can he go to? And that's the way it's always been with every one of our football players. And we've had quite a few kids go on.
Mhm. Yep.
You know, it's not about how many yards did he rush in this game and how many tackles. Don't care. They don't care.
Chop wood, carry water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Chop wood, carry water.
That is.
Well, like I told you, you know, when Kevin talked to me yesterday and Carl was home a couple weeks ago, they don't talk about the stats. They talk about their teammates, what we accomplished. They do talk about, you know, we lost in 05. Again, I learned
I watched that game. Yeah.
I learned a valuable lesson. I screwed up big time. That is my loss. I will always take that loss. And Kevin and Carl, to their credit, are very gracious. But, you know, we talk about the good times and then the times we could have learned.
Yeah.
You know, they don't talk about this award or that award or that. I don't even think they know. You know, I don't think they know.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one of your best memories of your career, your coaching career? Is there anything that stands out to you with, you know, all the state championships? Is there one in particular, or are they all just everything kind of?
I mean,
Maybe the first one?
yeah, it's a tough one because, you know, I'm big on not, you know, because I get asked a lot to rank your players. No,
Yep,
they're all important.
for sure. Yep.
If you're going to make me rank one, yeah, Isaac's number one. Why? Because he's my son. You know, that's as far as I'm going to go with it.
Yeah,
You know? So I sort of feel the same way, you know, when it comes to ranking all this. I mean this. I said a couple years on TV, and I'm going to say it again. All the years have been special.
Yep.
You know, Johnny Hauser and Luke Snell and, you know, Derek Adamson, Jared Klug, our first year. We made it all the way to the section final. We lost because, like I said, I was an idiot. But those guys were awesome, you know. And Ken, our AD, told me, he goes, Carl, you're not going to win a game. You might win 2 games. And I'm like, we're going to win them all. Blah, blah, blah. And I was all fired up. And, you know, we went 7-3 and made it all the way to the section final. And, you know, that was a big deal. That was a big deal because we didn't stink.
Yep.
We didn't have a losing record. So they're all important. Your question does bring to mind, you know, Scott Sorensen, he's our great AD right now. We've had tremendous ADs at our school, you know, Ken Vanderboom, Paul DeMore, Dave Meyer, Scott Sorensen, Jay Tollefson did a little bit. We've always had great ADs. And Scott, you know, has been the head girls basketball coach for years. I actually just resigned from girls basketball this year. So I've coached for 30 years of girls basketball, boys and girls basketball. But what I love about Scott is we can bang our heads and we're still friends. But when we made the tournament Alicia's year in girls basketball, we had one in boys basketball, we had one in football, we had one in track, and then when we got there in girls basketball, it was 4 for 4. And Scott was yelling at me in the, you know, 4 for 4, Carl. You went 4 for 4, you know, with our family, you know, all 3 have been in the state. And that is a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's what comes to my mind.
For sure. Yeah.
But again, all the football seasons have been tremendous. You know, we were blessed to win a state track title. We lost one by 3 points, where Reese and I were wishing for the other school to trip on the relay. So,
Yeah.
and, not very proud of that, guys, but yeah, he was like, trip. But no, I mean, that's, they're all special.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know.
I know that's a bad answer, but that's.
No, absolutely. I mean, you can take.
I think it just shows where your heart's at, Carl.
I
You
hope
know?
so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of all of this is just incredible value for the listeners, but also Ryan and I. Do you have any other questions? I mean, in the end of the day, so this is Sunday's exploring faith, right?
Mhm.
Yep. One thing I struggled as an athlete growing up was my identity was tied up because I didn't know Jesus. You know, I would have said that if you would ask me if I believed in God, I would have said yes, but I didn't understand what I think a lot of kids don't understand, and humans in general. But my identity wasn't there. My identity was in my ability as an athlete and my achievements. And then when it got stripped away from me, I kind of was a mess. I was a mess. So that's when I kind of spiraled into just poor decisions, sinful lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So from an identity standpoint, what this might be a tough question. Maybe it won't be, but like maybe tough for me to say it right. Like, what's for an athlete that's striving to be their best, that might be struggling. Let's just talk about identity. How about that?
Yeah, well, sport is just supposed to be a part of our life. It's not to be, I mean, Isaac is probably identified, my son Isaac is probably identified as a football player, right? Because he played at D1, he played in the league for a while, but he's more than that. And I'm proud of him that he's moved on. He's moved on, he's more than that. And I think that's what everybody, you play volleyball, wrestle, you're more than just a volleyball wrestler. It's just a part of what you do. That's where I sort of cringe, what am I going to be known for? Is it going to be football coach on my tombstone?
Right.
I hope not. I really do. I hope that's not what's going to be on there. I hope I'm known more than just a coach, and I don't know if this is answering your question, but I think kids have really got to strive to keep their priorities too. First day of football, we talk about our priorities, and it's got to be God, King Jesus, number one, family, number two. Sports is number 4 for us, and we say sports. We don't say football, because some kids like basketball more or wrestling, but we do ask to give 100%. Okay, so I think kids have just got to bear down and really focus on that, and they can. When you start talking to your athletes, in my humble opinion, you two guys need to ask them, how many hours you spent on that iPad last night? And get them to really, get that real relationship where they're going to be, yeah, coach, it was 3 hours on the iPad. You need to get off that iPad and start reading the good books. You need to start reading your Bible a little bit. Or, you might need to start reading about an athlete and what he's gone through and how maybe it led him back on trail. But yeah, I think each person's got to find out, what their life is about, and deep down, the big thing right now is that a lot of people are, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? Revelations tells us we're to live for the Lord. So everything we do should be, for his enjoyment. And you can do that, part of it through athletics, and then everything else you do. I don't know that I answered it, but that's sort of the way I feel about it.
Yeah, I didn't do it. You answered it great. I didn't do the best job framing it, but like,
Yeah, it's a tough question.
it is, and it's part of the chop wood, carry water. There's a chapter that one of the chapters we just talked about was, your life has got to be more about something that can just be something that's swiped away from you, like achievements or sport. Your identity's got to be in something higher than that. And in the book, it's God, it's Jesus.
Yeah. Well, going off on that, if I can sort of, the one thing we talked to a lot about, I think the Lord has given us, we shortchange ourselves, don't we? You know what I mean? God has given us a powerful brain. We have to learn to use it. So like we talk to our kids about, you should be able to put 100% in everything you do. And most people look at you like you're crazy. And it's like, no. That's the way God made you. You can put 100% into your English. You don't have to like your English class, but you do got to get it done. So just go ahead and do 100%, all your classes. I can give 100% in football, wrestling, and hockey, because that's the way God made me. I shortchange myself if I think different than that. And then they got to be mature enough to put in the real work. And if you put 100% in and you don't win and you lose a game here or there, okay. And that's where it's really important to have that relationship with Christ and your parents or a good coach, where they're, hey, you gave 100%. We just got beat. Right. We just got beat today, but you got to work at it. You got to work at it. It's, if I can go off on this a little bit, it's sort of like when kids ask me, well, where should I start reading in the Bible? Gospel of John to me is where you start. Okay. And then About half an hour later, the kid will text you and say, wow, this is really complicated. Yep, it is. But so is your math class. So is your science class. We work at football. Why are you not supposed to work at the Bible?
Yeah.
And why does God do that? Because he wants to see that you care. We all got to work at it.
Yeah.
You got to strive at it because the devil's pulling at us, and you got to strive to concentrate and read here. Concentrate and read. What does he mean? If I don't understand it, then I reread it again, and then I also pray on it. And you may not understand it for a year or two. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's part of it, just like science,
Sure.
right? You know, you don't always understand everything, right? All through high school, you're studying math, you're studying history, you're studying science. Why is the Bible any different?
Right. You know, and I just learned this the other day reading a book on Billy Graham, and I didn't know Harvard and Dartmouth, like they were both founded by
Christians.
Christians.
Most schools were.
And right, sure. And like the main priority was to understand the Bible and gospel as the foundation of their education,
Correct.
which is really fascinating.
What was the first book in high schools or public schools? The Bible.
Back in the day?
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting, like from a cultural standpoint, what we've seen, you know,
Right.
as a shift, and then we see what happens to our values, and we see what
Right.
happens to the.
Well, like I tell our boys, you kick out God, what fills the void?
devil.
Yeah, the great deceiver.
Mhm.
The great deceiver. And that's, in essence, is what's happening to our country and our world right now.
Mhm, for sure.
What's going on is for a reason. It's a message. And it's nothing to be scared of.
No.
Like I told you guys earlier before we got on screen, I'm excited. It's great times. If you know where you are, it's an exciting time in the world.
Mhm.
Okay? You can't be scared. You got to be fearless. You got to be relentless. And we as a country need to get our priorities in back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like you said, you're excited. I think, you know, Brandon and I are we're taking this on the town. We're trying to,
Right?
like you said, bring it back
Bring it
up.
back.
So, you know,
Bring it
we're-
back and even get it higher.
Yeah, yep. You know, just like you said, you're excited. I think we're just as excited
Mhm.
and to bring those type of things back to the community and
Yeah.
hopefully lift it up,
Yeah.
you know.
And wherever you're at, like, I mean, this is the fact that you guys are here watching this, and whether it's live or on recording, that's just a testament to all the things that Carl said. I mean, you're embracing adversity and you're attacking it head on to get better. We're using this time, which is different, but we're recognizing that, wow, where else in history where we had an opportunity like this, not circumstances like this,
Right.
but an opportunity to go, man, I have time to learn how to eat right. I'm actually at home. I can control those things a little bit more. Okay, I can choose to do the weights that we're doing. Like we can choose to go outside, work on our sprint and our speed. We can choose to read good books like we're doing right now. We can choose to listen to great wisdom from people who have, I mean, that's why Orion and I spend time with Carl, because Carl's 30 years ahead of us in his experience. And we're just like, okay, find people who are doing it better than you the right way and go study the crap out of them.
Mhm.
Okay. Even if they're from a rival town, that just humble yourself, you know? And I think it's probably just a good place to wrap it up.
Can
Yeah.
I make one point?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love what you were saying about rise up. And, you know, like I tell the boys in private when they come and talk to me, our example is King Christ, right? He had his bad days too.
Yeah.
Now, not a lot, right? He was very positive, very upbeat and going, but we know in the Garden of Gethsemane, excuse me.
Yep.
Right? He wept and he
Yep.
prayed to the Lord,
Mhm.
right? And he, you know, he was down a little bit.
Yep.
But after he got done with his prayer, he was back up.
Mhm.
And that's something that we all got to remember. We're all once in a while going to be down a little bit.
Yeah.
That's human nature.
Mhm.
Get on your knees, pray to the Lord, get back on that horse and just keep going.
Yeah.
Don't let adversity and don't let a little downfall hold you back.
Yeah.
You know, get back up. It's okay. It's all right. People that love you are always going to love you.
Mhm.
People that hate you, they're always going to hate you. So don't worry about them.
Yeah.
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 You know?
That's true.
People that love you are going to love you even when you fail.
Yeah.
You're never a failure unless you stay down. And that's what excites me, what you two are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. You guys are gonna do this.
Well, I tell you what, man,
Yeah,
Carl, thank you.
yeah. Thank you
Seriously.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Well, it's been
Very
time.
humbled that,
Yeah.
hopefully I didn't
No,
screw them all
no,
up.
you did.
No,
You
it's
had-
far from
You
it.
added value
Yeah.
far beyond what we could have expected, and
Sure.
just by being you, and you're an awesome man. And
Yeah.
we look forward to more when we're able to sit down at restaurants, go to the old free range exchange.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
was
heard,
great.
I heard you've been in there since,
Yeah, yeah.
and Ben said, I order whatever brand got.
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah. I'm like, whatever brand got, I like that. And
That's awesome.
he chuckled, yeah. Again, I'm a real simple guy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that's awesome. Well, on behalf of Araya and Carl, thanks for tuning in again. You got any final words? Just
No.
awesome.
Yeah, awesome
Awesome.
stuff. Take note, kids.
It's a nice day outside where we're at anyway, so get outside, do something, take some of the wisdom. Hopefully, if you were like, oh my gosh, I should have wrote that down, I should have wrote that down, watch the recording, take notes on this. There's some really valuable wisdom that was shared. All right, so God bless, have a good Sunday, and get outside.
Thank you.